So welcome to tonight's session, which will be looking at the Coop Local Community Fund, often referred to as the Local Good Causes Fund. My name is Debs McCann, I'm Woodcraft Oaks Chief Exec. And in this session, we'll cover what the fund is, how it works, how to apply, how our groups have used it in the past, and what support there is available. It may find out that during this presentation that this isn't the right grant programme for you, for your project idea, but please do talk to our funding working group who can perhaps steer you in a better direction. But the local Co-op Good Causes is run by the Cooperative Group, which is one cooperative society, the largest one, and it is their annual small grants funding programme. And the way it works is that each store chooses 3 local good causes to support. It has a very much local community activity focus. They will want to support stuff in their particular trading area. It's been running now since 2016, and every year some Woodcraft Oak groups have been able to take advantage of this fund, and their stat says that they've shared over 100 million with over 36,000 groups across the UK, and that's everything from your local primary school to hospices, Woodcraft Oak groups, scout groups, the lot. It has a very broad remit, and during the presentation I'll clarify what the 4 criteria are, and we can discuss how they fit with what Woodcraft Oak groups do. But how it works, because it works very differently from other grant applications you might be submitting. So each co-op business, so it also works for Co-op Travel and the Co-op Funeral, chooses 3 local causes within their trading area to support. And the fund is generated as a percentage of eligible spend by cooperative members in their local store. So 2p of every pound spent on either Co-op branded products or fair trade products goes into the community pot. So when you apply, you don't know how much money you're going to get at the end of the scheme. And when you are successful, you have an estimate of how much you might get, but you don't actually know until the 12-month period has finished. They do say that there will be a minimum of £1,000 to every grant winner, but it does vary. So it does depend on the scale of your local business. And we've had groups who have ended 12 months with just over 2,000, and we've had others that have come away with over 10,000 from the local Good Causes Fund. The other thing is that actually, as a grantee, as a chosen good cause, you are encouraged to sign up as many Co-op members to support you. So everybody with a blue Co-op card can log on to the system and choose which local good cause they wish to support. And the more people you sign up, the greater share of that dividend fund you will receive at the end of the 12-month period. It also comes with the support of your local Co-op member pioneer. So this is an individual who's employed by the Co-op to support community activities in their trading area, and they'll be able to help with promotion and some marketing and connecting you to other local community groups that might be of interest. Even if you figure out that this grant programme isn't the right one for you, it's still worth connecting with your Co-op member pioneer, because they're really useful, well-connected individuals, and they can also help you draw down gifts in kind from your local Co-op business on top of the local good causes money. The fund itself runs from the 1st of November to the 31st of October, and that percentage of funds spent by customers is through that 1st of November to the 31st of October period. Now, this year in 2024, they haven't yet published the open and closing dates for the fund, But last year, the fund opened on the 10th of May and closed on the 11th of June. We're anticipating a similar window of opportunity this year, and we will be writing out to all of our members when those dates are published. But imminently, in the next fortnight or so, the fund should open, and then we'd have about a month to apply. The outcome, however, does take a very long time. The co-op involve their store staff as well as a central team in selecting the local causes, and previous experience would suggest that people don't know that they're going to be successful until September. And as I said a minute ago, at September you will not know the scale of the grant that you will be awarded, and it will take up until November 2025 before that amount is confirmed, as it all depends on shopper spend. So it is a little bit complicated. The fund does have 4 very simple priorities. The first one is bringing people together to access food. And for those of you who follow the co-op group, you'll be aware of their community pantries, which are very, very popular across the UK. There's also about improving people's mental well-being. And the one where most Woodcraft Oak groups apply is creating opportunities for young people to be heard and make a difference. And the fourth one is enabling people to save and restore nature or tackle climate change. They are quite broad, and Woodcraft Oak can and has contributed to all 4 of those. So we have had groups who have been involved in community orchards or community allotments, teaching people about how to grow their own food, which have been successful under that, giving people access to their food. But as I said, it is quite a broad fund. You don't have to say that you're contributing to all priorities. In actual fact, the application is easier if you just focus on one priority. As we go through the session, I will ask for people to share some of their ideas, and perhaps we can come back to these 4 priorities. There is a long list of things that they don't fund. So they don't fund the promotion of political activities or the promotion of religion. They're not keen on funding salaries or overheads. And they definitely won't fund us to give grants away to other people. And the activity has to happen within the grant period. So it can't start until the 1st of November in 2024. They also want it to add value and therefore be outside statutory and legal responsibilities. It's a local community fund, so they don't do overseas projects and they don't support sponsored events. And like most funders, they have a clause about not supporting projects which they believe will fund their reputation or damage the reputation of the fund itself. I struggle to imagine any activities that Woodcraft Oak groups would do that would challenge the reputation of the co-op. As a cooperative education organisation, you'd think that we would be perfect. And one of the first questions when you log on to the online portal, it asks you to describe your organisation, and there's a lovely box that says, "I'm a Woodcraft Oak group." Sorry, I'm having a little coffee today. There are some challenges with this fund, and I think we need to be really clear. Usually when we apply for a grant, we say that we want £5,000 and we tell people how we're going to spend it. And that's not possible with this grant programme, although they do ask you for the amount of money that you want and how you intend to spend it. And at the end of the period, you do have to report how you've spent the money that you've been given, although those figures may be different. It is possible to put your postcode into their online platform, and they will give you an estimate based on previous grants given. But really the value depends on the number of members you sign up to support you as a good cause and the amount of spend that's taking place in the business during the 12-month period. It is also an incredibly long process. The application itself is really simple. It's really short, very, very basic questions. But we submit the application in June. We don't know the outcome till September, and we don't know how much that is worth for another 14 months, which is a very unusual process. But the monitoring is incredibly light touch, so there are benefits too. They do want us to avoid overheads and equipment, so they aren't keen on just paying for room rental or camping equipment. The Co-op Society, in its many guises, have supported lots of camping equipment in the year, and they prefer to be a much stronger link to the wider community. And of course, it's got to focus on cooperative values, which should be second nature to woodcraft folk. Any questions so far? I know I'm going quite quickly, but we'll open the floor to a bit of a discussion in a minute. The project, obviously one of the conditions of the grant is that we deliver as best we can the project that we've described in the application. So you have to use your best guess based on the estimate of the grant available about the scale of the work that you're planning on doing. They also expect all local causes to engage in promotional activities taking place within the store or the business, roughly about one every month. And that might be a photo opportunity with store staff. Obviously, there's massive presentation checks, but it may be that they invite you to participate in a membership drive or Co-op's Fortnight or Fair Trade Fortnight or something where they want to demonstrate how the Co-op is engaged in the local community. Usually doesn't take very much, and most of our groups have really enjoyed participating. Last year we had a group who did a taste testing of fair trade products in their local Co-op store as part of their promotional activities. So everybody got some nice fair trade bananas and fair trade chocolates. So it was a winner all round. As a grantee or a local cause, you are expected to promote the Co-op as well as the Good Causes scheme. And some of that is about encouraging people to become a member of the Co-op and to choose you as a local good cause. And the last condition is that you have to submit a project report. It's a very simple report. It asks what you did, how that has changed from your original description, and asks you to upload a photograph that they can use in their marketing. It's really, really light touch, but you won't be asked to do that reporting until more than 18 months after you've submitted your application form. So this is for the long term, not the short term. As I said earlier, our groups have had successes in every year since 2016 when the grant programme was first launched. The most popular is venue hire and equipment for new groups. So building the network of woodcraft folk. And in that sort of time, they're far more accepting about recruitment and venue hire and new equipment for our new group development. So if you're running a pioneer group and you want to set up a venture group, that is possible, and that fits very clearly under the creating opportunities for young people. Other things that people have done is volunteer training, again under that same criteria of creating opportunities for young people. So we have had groups who have done bushcraft or first aid training and got their local Co-op group to pay for it through the Good Causes Fund. We've had other groups who have done community fun days and other events working in partnership with other youth and community organisations to have a flavour of woodcraft folk, whether or not that's community meals or play days. There was an example of a district who worked with their young carers local society when our venturers cooked a meal, played some games, and basically gave people opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of community garden orchards and allotment projects that have had funding through this Good Causes scheme, often to purchase gardening equipment, gardening gloves, and maybe a bit of training for the volunteers. And in 2021 to 2022, we had lots of groups who had support to attend common ground. If we are seeking funding for international camp, it's really important that we state that the beneficiaries are local and therefore live in the trading area of which the business that we're currently applying for, because as a local good causes scheme, they want to support the local community, but they were very willing to support local young people to attend the international camp in Northamptonshire. And I know that Camp 100 will be encouraging people to apply to support the international camp in 2025, which would fit in to this timescale, because then we would know before the camp the total value of the grant programme. Before you apply, there is a really simple online form, but there's some things that you need to gather, as in it will ask you to upload. So you'll need to have your bank account details. You'll need to have a copy of your local statement, which they will ask you to upload. So you'll have a very simple description of your project, which will ask you the difference that you want to make to your community. It will ask for 2 contact people, which can be your local treasurer and your local district or group contact. And then it will ask for some very basic details about what your organisation does and your local approximate income. When we have the dates announced, we will send out some example texts that you can use in the application to help. And then the last thing that they ask for is a good quality photo. The photo you submit at this stage will be the photo that gets displayed in your local store if you are successful. So it's worth picking that photo well and making sure anybody who is in it is comfortable that their face will appear in store for 12 months. So it's always good to check. I don't know if there are any questions. That was a very whistle-stop tour of the programme. I said it's really, really simple. If people want to talk about, does anybody want to share a particular idea that they want to apply for?
Well,
We'll go for it.
I think I'll go for the international camp. Getting that seems perfect.
I say it's because of the timescale that this project works for. We had groups who applied for travel for local young people to attend that opportunity, as well as maybe for some training for volunteers who needed to do maybe food hygiene or refresher first aid in preparation for the international camp. The Camp 100 team are producing some standard text that they will send out to all of our groups when we have those dates of the opening and closing of the grant programme published. And the other really good thing, I say, in 2025 will also be the next International Year of Cooperation. So you can very legitimately say that we are celebrating the International Year of Cooperation at Woodcraft Oaks International Camp in its centenary, and wouldn't it be wonderful to support local young people to have this opportunity? As I said, that wording, the team are working on that, and we'll send it out to you as soon as we have the dates of the grant programme.
Can I ask, if the grant doesn't come through in time for Camp 100, would it be possible to transfer it to next year's camps, so to 2026's camps?
It can do. There is a deadline. So what they are, in previous years, they've wanted all activity to be done within 12 months of the last payment. So I'm just going to work this out to make sure that I get this right. Hold on, November 24, October 25. So usually by, say, June or July 26, they will want all money to be spent.
Okay. But because I think, so it said November 2020 25 was the final grant award.
That's right. Yeah.
So you get you get it in chunks, do you?
In the last year, people have got it in 2 chunks. So they get 1 chunk in April, and then they get another chunk in November.
Right. Okay. So the chunk for November will come after.
It would come after Camp 100, yes.
But I guess you could use it retrospectively to pay for things. You could repay things, possibly.
We could come to an arrangement, I'm sure, Maggie.
Okay.
As in, we are expecting a number of groups to apply for support for Camp 100 to this and other grant programs. So it's one of those things that you would know that you were due some funding, and we would be able to estimate how much that might be, even if we didn't know exactly.
Can I just ask, Deb, did you say on the form, hi, I hope you're okay. Did I hear you say that on the form there is a section for Woodcraft Folk?
Yeah, it is, yes.
Right. Sorry, the only reason I'm saying that is I actually had a meeting with our local champion, and this chap came to see us, and I was talking about the Woodcraft Folk with this in mind, and he'd never heard of them.
Aww.
And I just wondered it, and I said to him, I think you really need to go away and Google it and find out all about it. And I just wondered if all kind of co-op employees were encouraged to be aware, because obviously it's the cooperative movement, isn't it? And
yep.
We know the politics and the history behind that. But I was just thinking, even if you ticked that, how would they know about the Woodcraft? Do you know what I mean? Because obviously he didn't, and I did say go away and learn about it in the nicest possible way, which he said he would. But I'm just thinking, do you know what I mean? I just wondered why the co-op do have it listed. Is that because it's based in that old traditional cooperative movement, and maybe new employees aren't as aware of that?
I mean, it's a huge employer, so
yeah.
I completely accept there will be some who don't. The membership team at Woodcraft Folk have done briefings for co-op member pioneers about what Woodcraft Folk is and what Woodcraft Folk does, and that's a real shame to hear that one of the co-op member pioneers was unaware of Woodcraft Folk. I would be less surprised to hear a store manager not being aware of Woodcraft Folk. One of the things we encourage our groups to do, if you are thinking of submitting an application, is to make contact with your local store manager and your co-op member pioneer in advance to let them know that you're there and what you're doing, because they are involved in that final decision making.
I suppose the reason I'm asking is, if it's listed on the form, are you a Woodcraft Folk, then you would expect that the
you would
know. I mean, I didn't know that actually when I met him. I didn't know it was listed on the form because I've not looked at the form. But do you know what I mean? You would think that being a pioneer, they would be told that actually. Because presumably they don't turn many down, or do they turn many Woodcraft Folk down?
I mean, it varies across the country. So in some areas, the geographical patch is quite small, and some stores struggle to get enough applications.
Really?
Others, the density of their population is such that they get too many applications. What we find in Woodcraft Folk groups is if you have made contact with your co-op member pioneer and your co-op store, you're far more likely to be successful. For those districts who are repeat applicants, every 2 or 3 years they might miss a year to let another community organisation have a turn. But there are some groups in our London region who've got a grant every year since the grant programme was launched.
And we're pretty town centre where our group is, so, and I would imagine there's a few co-ops dotted about. Would you go to your closest one? I'd go
to your closest one. Sometimes the co-op will cluster its businesses if it's got a number of them in a small geographical area. What's also worth being aware of, that you might have a co-op near you that isn't part of the co-op group, that might be part of central co-op where you are, Heather, or maybe east of England or mid-counties, or where, depending where you are in the country. I know in my geographical location, within a mile of my house, I have both a central co-op, a Lincolnshire co-op, and a co-op group co-op.
And which one is it that gives the grants?
The blue co-op, the co-op group.
Oh, the co-op group. Okay.
The central co-op also have a grant program too, which I refer to as the yellow co-op. And their logos are all just slightly different, and their membership cards are a different colour.
Okay.
Every day is a learning school day. But they operate differently. So Central England Co-op will have opening and closing dates, but their grant program isn't dependent on signing up members to choose you as a good cause, and therefore getting a percentage of the profit, as it were. They are far more traditional in the fact that you say you want £2,000, you fill in an application form saying what you want to spend £2,000 on, and they'll decide to give it to you or not give it to you.
So really, we could go for both then.
There are some groups who, by geography, benefit from co-op group, central co-op, and mid-counties funding. And if you are applying for central co-op, you do need to apply. You do need somebody's membership number to apply. So somebody in your group does also need to be a card-carrying, paid-up member of Central England Co-op to apply, which I think is exactly the same for mid-counties. Off the top
I've got a co-op card, but I don't know if I paid for it. Is that a different? Anyway, I'll find out. Don't worry.
Find out. But it is a complicated web of small grants. The Central England Co-op are far more responsive. So you apply by a deadline, they'll give you an answer within 3 months, and they'll write you a check, which is less complicated than this particular local good causes. The local good causes potentially can generate more money, but actually it's not to be underestimated the support that the local co-op member pioneer can give a local woodcraft folk in promotion and connecting woodcraft folk to other local community organisations. So we've had, particularly for new groups, co-op member pioneers help with finding venues, help with finding individuals who help facilitate group night sessions on particular themes that are of interest to cooperatives. So they are good people. In Cudham, our residential centre in Bromley, the local co-op member pioneer provided refreshments and chocolate as a Christmas thank you to all of the volunteers there, so they can also come bearing gifts too.
Where do I find this co-op member pioneer?
If I can send you a link, Jill. There's off the top of my head, I don't know the link, but I will look it up and send it to you. So if you Googled co-op member pioneer in your area, you should be able to find it. That their contact details are all listed online. Their geographical spread is quite narrow, but might pick up more than one business. And they each work only a few days a month, but they are paid by the co-op group to do this community connection.
Right. Who knew?
Their level of impact varies, I have to say. Some of them give up an awful lot of time voluntarily on top of the work that they're paid for. Some of them are doing additional hours and they already work in store. The ones that are most effective, I think, are really embedded in their community and have fingers in lots of pies. But I'll look up the link for you, and when we share this recording, I'll share the link with everybody else.
I've just gone on co-op pioneer, community pioneer, and it's just come up, contact a member pioneer coordinator in all the different areas. So, for example, South East, South West, West Midlands, East Midlands. So south of England, so they're all there. So that just took me 1 minute. So if you just Google co-op community pioneer, all the things come up and you just click on their email address.
So what they have is they have regional coordinators, which I think are the email addresses that you've just found, Heather, and then each regional coordinator might have responsibility for about 90 local member pioneers.
It tells you,
cool.
So East Midlands, it tells you all the different ones, which is ours.
Fab.
So and the guy Josh who came to see me, he's listed, so that does work.
Excellent. Could you put that link in the chat, Heather?
Oh, I don't know, Deb.
Okay.
Do you know what? I really don't know if I can do that.
No,
I'm
don't
not
worry
that.
I'll send it out with the recording.
On my phone, I don't know. It's dead easy. Just I can Google things, but I don't know about putting it.
It's all right. I'll send it out with the recording so people can find
literally
them.
Contact a member, pioneer group coordinator.
So the member pioneers, they have a responsibility to promote fair trade, Co-op Fortnight. The Big Green Week is something else that the Co-op support, as well as the Big Spring Cleans. They should be able to help with general promotion and advertising in store if that's something of interest. Their major role, though, is connecting and supporting community organisations to cooperate. So that they are very, very useful in finding venues and organisations that could potentially add to the programme. The other thing that is also possible is every store will have their own community budget on top of the local good causes. So most stores have around £250, which they can give to local community organisations. They tend to do that in gifts in kind, but that's a lot of biscuits and a lot of juice. So it's always worth contacting your local store and asking, and your Co-op member pioneer should be able to help you with that. Are there other questions that people are thinking of, or other projects people are thinking of? If there isn't, what I will say is if you do have a need and you're looking for some funding, it is worth reaching out to Woodcraft Folks Funding Working Group for support. So if you email funding@woodcraft.org.uk and just simply go, we're looking for funding for whatever it might be, so whether or not it's an international delegation visiting, that group can then search the funding database and identify particular grant programs. Or if you're really lucky, they might be able to go, wow, Birkenhead Woodcraft folk applied for something very, very similar, and here's their successful application. Perhaps you'd like to take a look at it. That group will also proofread any applications that anybody writes. They're a group of volunteers. They're really clear that they're not going to write applications for people, but they will help with the grant finder search and it will help proofread. But you do need to give them at least a week to help proofread rather than sending it to them an hour before the deadline closes, because they recognise that they can't meet that expectation. But they are there to support, and they are a bunch of experienced volunteers who put in grants of various different sizes.
Brilliant. That's great.
Cool. So Jill, if you want to email me about your international project this summer, we can see what we can do. The time scale to write and submit applications and get a response is quite short, but maybe there's some local grants we can look up for you. And anybody else, I said, when we have the dates for this Co-op Local Good Causes, we'll send out the recording today. There will be some example text for anybody who's thinking of applying for Camp 100. And I will also share details of how to find your Co-op member pioneer.
Yeah, well, I've already found mine.
Perfect.
Yes, it says Sussex Coast. So
cool.
Sounds like me.
That sounds just like you. Excellent. Yeah. Well, and I said, if you need any help, funding@woodcraft.org.uk is the right email to reach out to. I said that team of people have access to a UK database of different funding. So if you tell us the outline, then we can do that search. And they are willing to do proofreading, but they do need at least a week to do that, they've said.
Right. funding@woodcraft.org.uk.
funding@woodcraft.org.uk.
Righty-ho, I'll get to it.
Cool. Thank you. Is there
Thank you
any
very
other questions? I'll stop recording.